Everybody, welcome back to Music Theory Monday. Every week, we stray further from light. Last time we talked about intervals, and I hope that you at least somewhat practiced. If you haven't, you should. It won't be much of an issue now, but it will be later, so get on with it from the get-go. In any case, hope you're doing well, hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we're going to talk about scales. You may have heard of scales before. It's how we organize notes and intervals. If intervals are individual ingredients like tomatoes, lettuce, bread, and whatnot, scales can be considered full-blown dishes. They require the right combination of ingredients to be truly great. But what does great mean, scale-wise? Well, let's define a scale for that explanation. A scale is a grouping of notes with a specific sound or characteristic. We're getting closer. Let's first clear some air about the difference between keys and scales. You will often find something like, "This song is in the key of A," written all over it, so let's explain that. Hierarchically, we have keys at the very top of the pyramid and scales right underneath them. That's because in a song in the key of A, there can be employed different scales that are related to that all-encompassing key of A. So think of keys as that final, all-encompassing umbrella to define how your song is written. Scales, however, are individual flavors of sound. The note they start on will give them their name, for example, A major or A melodic minor or A pentatonic minor. All of them start on A and follow different techniques to achieve that characteristic sound. There are many scales available at our fingertips, and as you become more experienced, you will come into contact with so many of them you might as well be considered a reptile. Each of them has a specific sound and use case based on nuance and genre, but by far the most useful ones I'm going to focus on are major scales and minor scales. I'll also mention a third type at the end of the video because its usefulness will depend on you. Stay tuned for that, and while you're at it, feel free to subscribe to this channel as to not miss any new videos I will make about music production. There's also my Instagram link as a reliable way to send me a message, and if you'd like to support this project financially, thank you, my Patreon is on the screen as well. Now, back to us. While there is only one widely accepted major scale, there are three common minor scales, each to quote-unquote fix the shortcomings of the other ones. This doesn't make one necessarily superior to the other, but it makes them more suited for specific purposes. But I'm getting too ahead of myself right now. Let's start from the beginning. The classic example of a major scale is C major, the very first scale everybody learns. Why is it the first scale? Because it's extremely simple to visualize. Here's the C major scale for you. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. It starts on the note of C, and it includes only white notes up to the next C. What makes this scale major is the way it's constructed, the very intervals between its notes. If you look at them, a pattern starts to emerge. And with that, another pattern emerges that humans love. Patterns. And music is here to satisfy that craving. Pretty much everything in music is built on patterns stacked on top of other patterns with a nice serving of patterns on the side. Looking at that C major scale, we can figure out that the intervals between notes are as follows. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The last half step is always here to get you back on the note you start on, in this case, C. It's the octave. Now, will this work for any other keys? Yes, this is the universal formula to make a major scale. If we were to start on a D,
Shut up.
it's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. And that's the D major scale. The formula stays unchanged. It's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that about covers one half of the emotional spectrum. Let's cover the other half as well. You see, major scales sound cheerful and smile-inducing unlike life, and that is reflected in music too. There's definitely been a shift towards the use of minor keys as the main staple of written music because it's simply easier to write in. The over-the-top joy of major keys makes them not quite unusable, but definitely more difficult to bend to your liking. There's an article on a HuffPost about how from the 60s we just shifted completely towards the use of minor keys. I can tell you that in my entire career, like both original stuff and me commercially working on other people's music, I don't think I've ever had to work on a major song in my life. No major scales whatsoever. Is it a coincidence? It very well might be, but that'll be one mighty coincidence. In any case, minor scales don't necessarily mean they're meant to sound sad. They simply mean to sound weighty. I think a better word would be serious. And that's the beauty of them. While major scales are pretty much locked into that happy tone, minor scales can be bent according to your needs. They allow for more emotional experimentation, if you will. So what's the intervallic difference between a major and a minor scale? Well, lowering a third 6th and 7th degrees of a major scale by a half step will give us a natural minor scale. A natural minor scale can be considered the foundation for every minor scale that comes after it. And despite being that cornerstone, you will not see him being used too much, with the preference being given to the other two brothers. That being said, I've shown you the pattern for the major key. Let's do it for the minor one as well. So, in order to make a natural minor scale, the formula is half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. So, if we're talking about the C natural minor scale, it's C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. An interesting thing to discuss is the topic of relative minors. Look at the C major scale and take a look at the A natural minor scale. They are composed of the same exact notes. We can say that A natural minor is the relative minor to our C major scale. To find the relative minor, you simply outline a major scale and look at its 6th note. It's going to be the note the relative minor of that major scale starts with. And following a similar process, taking a look at a minor scale's 3rd note will tell you its relative major. In a C major scale, A is the relative minor, and in an A minor scale, C is its relative major. Knowing this is quite useful if you decide to switch the mood for a section of your song, as being able to navigate through not one but two scales with very different characteristics opens a lot of doors, as well as provides a domino effect for further experimentation with the stuff like the circle of fifths and other modulation. Yeah, for some reason I look way more blue now, I guess we're just gonna deal with that. But that's natural minor, the odd one out. Let's talk about the other two. First up is harmonic minor. To get a harmonic minor scale, you simply take a natural minor scale and raise the 7th up a half step. We do this because the natural minor scale is lacking a very important quality, which is called a leading tone. A leading tone is basically a very strong pull from the last note of the scale to the tonic above it. Tonic is a fancy way of saying the first note of the scale. We're going to see more of it in later videos in more depth. The strongest pull is achieved by placing the last note of the scale one half step below the high tonic. And this is exactly how we modify our natural minor scale in order to, fulfill our requirements, to make it sound more pleasing. All major scales have that built in, by the way, if you notice, but we have to fidget with the natural minor to get it quite right. And the very name itself, harmonic minor, comes from it being well suited for harmonies, providing great opportunities for chords, especially a major chord on a dominant degree and a diminished chord on the leading tone. You don't know what that means just yet, just don't worry about it. If you play a harmonic minor scale by hand, you will see that it sounds very Arabic-ish. It's pretty cool. So if our C natural minor scale is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, we just simply raise the 7th tone and make our C harmonic minor scale. So it becomes C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B. Yeah, the difference is just it goes from B flat to B. Now, that being said, harmonic minor is pretty cool for chord possibilities and harmonies, but it's slightly awkward if you want to try to write melodies with it. You see, between the 6th and 7th tones, there is a 3 half-step jump, and it's a pretty big one. It sounds jarring, so we need a way to fix it. We fix it by smoothing out that jump by raising the 6th a half-step. Or rather, let me put it this way. A harmonic minor scale is made by taking the natural minor scale and raising the 7th a half step. A melodic minor scale is made by taking the natural minor scale and raising both the 6th and the 7th by a half step. It's as simple as that. Our C melodic minor scale now looks like this. It's C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, and is well suited to write melodies in. But all this scales talk doesn't cover an important question that you surely will have. Can you use more than one scale in your song? Yes, you can. That's why we talk about our song being in the key of C, not in the scale of C major. The key aspect of it implies the possibility of multiple variations of scales being played, even at the same time. So don't worry about it too much, just do whatever, as long as it sounds good. And this about covers the scales talk I wanted to do. But at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I would throw in another type of scale in here that's going to be useful to some of you. I will not go into too much detail about them, but it will be useful for those that look forward to learning how to improvise playing an instrument. These are called pentatonic scales, meaning they consist of only 5 notes instead of 7 like we've seen so far. They're quite easy to learn, and while I don't think you can find many instances of modern music built on simply pentatonic scales, you will definitely catch some parts that utilize them. As I said, these scales are widely used for improvisation purposes, and it's a quite useful skill to have. I will have to dedicate a separate video to them down the line, but if you want to start now, you can. Yeah, do it. And that's it, we're done for this week. As usual, practice. It's boring, and you will feel the pull to skip that. But trust me, a little elbow grease now for 15 minutes a day will save you potentially years down the line. What I'm trying to say, don't be me. Either way, take some time, grab yourself a cookie because you deserve it for sitting through this. And I will see you in the next video, exactly a week from now. My name is Viktor Vee, and I am out.